Hello and welcome to StudyIQ. I am your friend Rahul Saigaonker. Friends, are you experiencing extreme high temperatures in your area? Has the temperature already breached the 40 degrees Celsius mark in your region? I'm quite sure many are experiencing this. It's just the month of April. We have another month to go, the peak summer month of May, and we are already experiencing extreme heat waves across the country. Today's discussion is connected to heat waves itself. In fact, heat waves has been in news for past 1 week. I'm quite sure you must have heard about the tragic news where 11 people lost their lives in a rally in Mumbai owing to heat waves. Recently, Indian Meteorological Department has also issued heat wave alert across various areas of India, including northern India, central India, and eastern India. So in this discussion, we are going to understand what exactly is the meaning of this heat wave. What causes heat wave? We already know prima facie, it's basically the summer month, right? But what exactly happens? What atmospheric phenomena happens because of which heat wave occurs? How does Indian Meteorological Department define heat wave? What is the criteria for defining heat wave? And we'll also talk about what is the impact of heat wave on our lives. What is the impact of heat wave on the economy in general? All these things would be discussed. In fact, let's begin our discussion with a simple question. In fact, it's a very simple question, a practice question for you, which might be asked in mains, or a little complicated question than this, where what exactly is the meaning of heat wave? What are the steps that government is taking? How are we prepared for heat wave? But this is a very simple question. Heat waves are emerging as a big threat to India, with its frequency and intensity both increasing more and more in the recent times. You have to examine this particular statement. Now, you'll get very good fodder or content to write this particular answer in this particular video, because we'll be covering all the aspects connected to heat wave. Without any delay, let's begin our discussion. But before that, there is a small notice for all of you. If you are a UPSC Civil Services aspirant, if you're preparing for the examination, then this is the batch for you, Prelims to Interview batch. StudyIQ's unique program will handhold you from prelims till your interview. In fact, if you clear prelims 2024, then the entire mains preparation, its expenses would be borne by StudyIQ itself. In fact, today is the Civil Services Day, and there is a huge discount going on Civil Services Day. Do avail that. Use the code Rahul Live to get maximum discount on this particular batch, which is beginning on 22nd April. I'll see you in the class. Right, let's begin our discussion. As I told you, our discussion is connected to heat waves, right? Recently, a study has also been released. A study by University of Cambridge has been released, which has suggested that 90% of India is actually vulnerable to heat waves and its impact. It's very true. Again, I would say this is common knowledge also, that heat waves causes a lot of problems, a lot of impacts, a lot of adverse consequences on many parts across our country. But the first question, so what exactly is this heat wave? I want to know what is the definition of heat wave. Prima facie, I do know heat wave means abnormally high temperatures in a particular region. But abnormally high temperature in respect to what? In respect to the maximum average temperature, which we have already calculated for many years. That is the meaning of heat wave. Please try to understand heat wave. Say for example, today's date in April, we have this particular maximum temperature, but we also have a maximum average temperature which is calculated for many years. In comparison to that, it is abnormally high temperature. All right. And again, heat waves normally occur across the northwestern part of our country, not just India, but many other parts in southern Asia experience the heat wave. And heat waves generally tend to happen in India between March to June. Many a times they may also extend till July also. And we all know that whenever heat wave occurs, it's very simple. Heat waves, they lower my productivity, right? Right. Heat wave is actually defined, or the criteria has been given by the IMD, who declares a heat wave alert. It is the Indian Meteorological Department, which keeps a track of temperature across our country. In fact, they also have historical data of the average temperatures across different areas in our country, and on the basis of that, they define heat wave. We'll talk about the criteria in some time, but sir, I do understand that it's summertime. That means the solar radiation, incoming solar radiation would be very high. Yes, I do expect higher temperatures. But what exactly causes this heat wave? This heat wave is caused by a phenomena. See, from Physics 101 or from basic NCRTs, we know if the air is hot, the air has to ascend. If the air is cold, it descends. Now, that's basic we know about the air and temperature, right? That means hot air has to ascend. That means what is happening? I am getting extreme heat on my country. That means solar radiation is incoming on our country, right? On inland. Now air is getting heated up. Now air has to rise up, all right? But because of certain upper atmospheric situation, what happens is a high atmospheric pressure condition is created, meaning generally I want, if the air is heated up, I want this air to rise up. But what is happening is over the mainland of India, a high pressure zone is created, because of which this hot air is actually trapped inside. It's kind of a heat dome. So India at this particular time, that too, when I say India, that means the northern part, the eastern part, and the central Indian part, it is more like a dome where the hot air cannot escape. And because of this, high temperatures are felt, heat waves are felt, which are catastrophic. Now, what exactly happens here, or what atmospheric phenomena does contribute towards this? You might have a question. See, again, jet streams do contribute to it, different air masses do contribute to it, but in general, our country, the central Indian part, it basically becomes like a dome. A high pressure region creates these conditions of heat wave. So please remember, heat wave is because of the high pressure conditions, a very important pointer for your prelims. All right. Now, next question. Sir, what is this heat wave alert? You said that Indian Meteorological Department defines heat wave. So when do they declare something as heat wave? So this is the criteria for defining a heat wave. According to IMD, when in the plain regions, the temperature reaches 40 degrees Celsius, that is a criteria for declaring heat wave. And in the hilly regions, it is basically 30 degrees Celsius. So whenever these temperatures are breached, it becomes a heat wave. And again, for a couple of days, if a high pressure region stays over that becomes a heat wave region. But if the temperature is below 40 degrees Celsius, can I declare something as heat wave? Yes, I can declare something as heat wave condition if the normal temperature is below 40 degrees Celsius. But when we compare that to our maximum average temperature, which we have calculated from previous years, if current year's temperature is more by 5 to 6 degrees Celsius compared to the maximum average, then it becomes heat wave condition. And it becomes severe heat wave conditions if the maximum average temperature is breached by about 7 degrees Celsius. That's the criteria for declaring heat waves in India. And irrespective of all these temperatures, if in any area the temperature breaches 45 degrees Celsius, that means a heat wave is automatically proclaimed there. All right. The question that's in front of us, sir, I understand, okay, heat waves, it's a common phenomenon across India, especially during the summer seasons. But you said in the question, you said that the incidences are increasing, the frequency is also increasing. But why? Again, the answer to this question is also very simple. The infamous climate change. Because of the climate change, because of impact of climate change, we are getting so many incidents of climate, so many incidents of heat wave in India. In fact, if you look at the IMD data itself, Indian Meteorological Department has suggested that in the years 1981 to 1990, the number of days that India experienced heat waves was 413. But in the last decade, from 2011 to 2020, this number was 600 days. That means for 600 days in different regions, there were heat waves in that particular decade. So this clearly highlights that the frequency is increasing, and one of the reasons for this, or the prime reason for this, is the impact of climate change itself. Because of climate change, because of global warming, the temperatures are continuously increasing and the incidences of heat wave are increasing throughout our country. The next question. So fine, there is heat wave, I'll simply stay put in my home, but people have to work, right? If one can stay at home, that it is very fine, but people have to work, be it summer or rainy season or winter, people have to work. The economy has to run, things have to run. Then what impact does it create? This impacts almost all the aspects of life. In fact, you can see here, as I told you recently, the report was released by University of Cambridge, which says 90% of India would be impacted. Now, impacted how? Many regions are actually described as danger regions, specifically Delhi. The schools would be closed, right? Already, it's luckily the vacation are going on, but in the higher standards, basically 8th, 9th, 10th standard or 11th and 12th, they do have classes even now. So schools are closed at this particular time. But how it impacts? See, it impacts different facets of our life. Of course, economically also, I'll be impacted. As I told you, common sense tells me what? If there is high temperature, if there is heat wave, my productivity will go down. I'll be continuously sweating. I cannot focus on my work, right? So this has been highlighted. Economic cost has also been calculated. There is a report, Climate Transparency Report 2022, which has highlighted that extreme heat waves could actually lower the quality of life of 480 million people in our country. 48 crore people's quality of life would be impacted, especially impacting the poor people. This report also highlights that productivity would be lowered, and this falling productivity can be translated into loss of GDP to the tune of 5.4% of our GDP. That means minus 5.4 GDP impact because of extreme heat waves every year. That's the average. Apart from that, if we talk about indirect costs are quite heavy because, see, because of heat wave, if I fall sick, the health impact, I do not have insurance, out of pocket expenditure goes, right? That means the inequalities would be rising continuously. In a country like India, where we already suffer from issues of poverty, unemployment, and social inequalities, heat waves actually expand these things, or they tend to spread these problems more and more. It's quite clear. Heat waves cost poor countries the most, where the inequality is further exacerbated. That's proved. Many reports have already told us that. Apart from that, it impacts our health also. Now, it impacts our health, of course. Humans, we are very selfish animals. Human health comes first. Then, yes, it impacts livestock, human health, etc. In terms of human health, the NDMA clearly highlights what can happen because of heat waves. Because of heat waves, you can suffer from heat cramps, you can suffer from edema, where muscle swelling can take place, you can suffer from syncope, where you can faint. Heat causes exhaustion to you. You can feel fatigue, weakness, dizziness, headache, and heat stroke can even occur, which can be highly catastrophic for human health. Now, this is regarding humans. Similar thing happens with the livestock or the animals also. Apart from that, it impacts our food security. That means my food insecurity will increase more and more. Why? Because of higher temperatures, there are more pathogens, there are more diseases, the agriculture productivity will go down, the water content will go down, water level will go down, water stress will increase, there will be lower productivity of the agricultural crops, eventually again creating problems of inflation, etc. in our economy. So it's a vicious cycle of heat wave which creates so many problems in front of us. So the impact is quite catastrophic, which you can see here on almost all the sectors of our economy, on almost all the constituents of the ecosystem. All right. Now, apart from this, what can we do? So heat waves, they do come because we are a tropical country. We cannot stop the incoming solar radiation, but we can do many things. The first thing, as a long-term plan, what we need to understand, what we humans need to understand is fight against climate change is actually a fight against heat wave. So the best way to fight heat wave is to ensure that climate change is reversed, global warming is reversed. That's the long-term plan or the perspective idea for all the humans. But to be ready for this heat wave, we can take certain steps. For instance, we can take some temporary mitigative steps, temporary reactive steps. As soon as IMD announces heat wave, we can come up with heat wave action plans. We can come up with climate action plans. It's a long-term plan. Apart from that, we can create public awareness that if possible, stay indoors during the peak hours, especially in the afternoon. So a local level plan can be created to mitigate the impacts of heat wave. That's the reactive step, to mitigate the impacts immediately. Apart from that, we can come up with some sort of technological mitigation of heat wave to reduce the impact. For instance, IMD already does that. We already have early warning systems. That's why IMD has already given the alert. We can go for some sort of sustainable cooling. And very sad, as I'm recording this, already the AC is on. It's actually not sustainable cooling, right? We already know the amount of ACs that we switch on for cooling, it actually adds more and more to the problem of heat waves. So what we need to find out some sort of non-AC based cooling solutions. Say proper ventilation, right? Proper ventilation can be done, proper designing of the buildings, all these things can be thought of. Apart from that, In terms of agriculture, we need more and more resilience in our agriculture. We need water resistant crops. We need better irrigation facilities, probably go for drip irrigation, sprinkler irrigation, per drop more crop phenomena can be enhanced. More and more resilient agriculture is needed, and technology can be employed here. Apart from that, we can also go for some sort of infrastructure based solution, especially by creating green spaces. We know deforestation is also one of the reasons for these heat waves. Deforestation is a problem for climate change as well. Apart from that, the dark places or the dark roofs can be reduced. We all know that all our roads are black color, dark color. All our roofs are dark color. We are creating so many infrastructure or so many buildings comprising of cement and concrete. What happens here? It basically reflects more and more heat. Apart from that, the water percolation also lowers. We all know about that. So what we can do is we can create more green spaces. We can go for more whiter roofs so that heat wave impact is reduced a little and situation can be improved a little. So these are some of the steps that you can mention in your answer. So we need to be ready for that. And many cities, many states, that do have their own emergency response plans for heat wave action plan, right? So as soon as heat wave alert is given, so steps are brought, especially for cooling all these things. But what is needed is a long-term solution. As I told you at the beginning itself, fight climate change, you'll automatically fight heat waves also, right? Now let me end my discussion with another thought, because everybody thinks that it's just a phenomena in India. See, remember, solar radiation is not just specific to India. It's there everywhere. So the entire world experiences, especially the tropical regions, they experience a lot of heat waves. It's not just India. Of course, India is there, but countries like Australia, Brazil, European countries, even Canada, they experience heat wave. They have their own definitions of heat wave. So last year, 2022, was a record for the entire world in terms of heat waves, and probably this year we are going to breach that record further. Let's wait and watch what exactly happens. Whenever there is an update, we'll talk about that. But hopefully, with the question that we began, you have got enough content, enough fodder to write that particular answer. All right. If there is an MCQ over heat wave, do get it right? That's it in this particular discussion. Thank you for watching this video. And if you like this video, you can always follow me on this particular ID at the rate Rahul Sai 222. If you have any suggestions, if you have any feedback, if you want to communicate with me, you can always message me on Instagram. I do respond on Saturdays and Sundays. Thank you for watching this. Jai Hind.